It is already 3 p.m., so I do not have the time to goof around and be hypercritical about everything that goes into this podcast, like the fact that I just said, all about, all right, let's just get on with it. Today on the Bandrew Talks Into a Big Fat Pill Says podcast, I will be discussing if Shure has resolved a huge issue with one of their recent releases, comparing studio condenser to handheld condenser to handheld dynamic and other stuff too. So go ahead and stick around. Let's start with the discussion about whether or not Shure has just resolved a huge issue with one of their recent releases. The release that I am talking about is not the MV7 Plus, it is the MVX2u, their tiny little portable audio interface, and it just so happens that I am running a fully Shure setup today. Unintentional, I just grabbed stuff, and that's what I am using. I'll talk about it in what I have been testing, but when I reviewed the MVX2u, I concluded that I could not recommend it because of one huge issue. The preamps do have a little bit of noise, not the biggest issue considering how small it is. The headphone amp isn't the greatest, especially for IEMs, not the biggest issue considering the size. But the reason I could not recommend it is when you input low-frequency information to this interface, the noise floor skyrocketed, and it was frequency somewhere below 50 or 60 hertz, and when that frequency would make it into the interface, you would just hear and see this massive spike in the noise floor. And in order to confirm this, I used a sine wave to sweep through frequencies and see where that cut off. So I went ahead, recorded that, sent that to Shure, and I will include a quick sample here so you can hear that. Beware if you use subwoofers, because this is just a solid sine wave. If you're using a sub, this is just going to shake your house or your car or whatever. So you have been warned. Here is the sample of that issue. But also if you bump the microphone or shook the microphone, the interface would still exhibit that increase in the noise floor, and that led to it sounding kind of squeaky because you had that low frequency information and then this really high-pitched information that was being introduced, and it caused this kind of rubbery squeakiness to it. It was really weird. Here is a demo of that. I am not sure what is causing that. My theory is the low-end information is overpowering the A to D converter, something like that. So if I engage the 75 Hz high-pass filter, let me do that same thing. You still hear the mechanical noise of the microphone being shaken, but you don't have that additional noise that's introduced into the recording when that low-end information is captured. And because of that issue, I concluded that I could not recommend it because the only solution that I had was engage the 75 Hz high-pass filter all the time, and if you're getting an audio interface, it should not roll off at 75 Hz. So I sent all this information, all of these tests to Shure from my personal email, so I was not functioning as Podcastage. I don't think they knew who I was. I sent them these samples, and I just got an email back from them, and it said, "Hi Andrew, I'm happy to report that we have finally released a firmware update for the MVX2u that addresses the low-frequency issue that you wrote to us about. You can update your MVX2u via the Motive Mix app. Thanks for your patience and sorry for the delay. Please let us know if you have any questions or if we can help you with anything else. So now if I bump the microphone or tap the interface, let's see if it is squeaky. Let's see if there is an increase in the noise floor or any kind of white noise. To me, that sounds like it's resolved, so that is a huge, huge win for me. I am not going to say that it is absolutely resolved, though, because I want to test this for a few weeks, make sure there aren't any quirks before I make a final conclusion and before I make a follow-up video. Something that I am concerned about, I doubt they would do this, but as I mentioned, the solution that I found was engaging the 75 Hz high-pass filter. A simple solution would be, okay, we're just going to engage a high-pass filter all the time. I don't think they did that, but I am going to compare the MVX2u and other interfaces to make sure the frequency response is still natural and flat and does not roll off frequencies below 60 Hz or something. But I will be using this, testing this over the coming weeks, and I am excited because if this has actually been resolved, if they fix this issue, this thing is crazy as a travel setup because it is teeny tiny. If you can see the video, if you're watching the video, it looks like a FET head. It's about the size of a FET head, just a little bit fatter, and that's perfect for travel. I think my perfect travel setup would be something like the, the Neumann KMS 105, the Shure MVX2u, and then some headphones. The Dunu SA6s maybe? That would be a pretty tight travel setup. So we'll see what happens over the coming weeks. This is your news announcement. Okay, if you have an MVX2u, that was the worst Morse code ever. I probably just cursed somebody out, but let me tell you, I do not know Morse code, so if I swore at you, it was unintentional. If you have this interface, go update it. I didn't even disclose what firmware I'm on. 1.2.0.356. That's the firmware I'm on, and did you hear that? Maybe I'm hearing crackling in my headphones or something. I'm hearing crackling. I don't know what that is. Okay. Well, we can burn that bridge when we come to it. But go update it if you have that. It seems like it may have. That's freaking me out now. I'm hearing crackling. Okay, that is that piece of news. Great news, hopefully. Let's talk about what I have been testing. I guess let's talk about the fully Shure setup that I am running. I am using the big fat pill, the Shure SM5B. I don't know why I pulled this out. I was in the Podcastage voice chat last night, and this came up, so I grabbed it. And I need to get use out of it because I spent $200 or $180 on the foam for this thing, so I better get use out of it. But I realized after somebody told me that the price I got this for was an absolute steal. I got this for under $700 back in 2020. Now they're listed for like $1,200 to $2,000, which is, do not spend that much money on it. That's stupid. Just get an SM7B. It doesn't sound the same, but it still sounds good. So do not spend $2,000 on this microphone. I don't think it's worth it. You already know the interface, MVX2u. I do have a little bit of processing. I don't have the EQ on. I just have the limiter, and I have the compressor set to medium, so I will not be doing compression in post. Maybe I won't do any... I will normalize it. Maybe mouth declick. We'll see. We'll see what I'm feeling like. And the headphones, I am doing something I said I would never do or I didn't like doing. I am using IEMs just to experiment. And I have confirmed my decision and my reason why I do not like using them. Number one, They are like earplugs. So you hear your voice bouncing around your head, and it makes monitoring effectively very difficult because I would need to turn up the volume in my headphones to a level I'm not comfortable with to make sure I'm hearing that over my voice bouncing around in my stupid skull. The second reason is maybe a fault of the interface, but there is just this constant hiss. The MVX2u does not have headphone amp that do good with IEM, so just not pleasing, not the most settling, and not great for monitoring. So I just confirmed, yeah, I don't like using IEMs for monitoring. For walking about and listening to music, yeah. Do new SA6s? Heck yeah, dude. Heck yeah. As I mentioned, perfect travel setup. SA6s, MVX2u, assuming that crackling, is not something actually broken with the interface. Come on, please be fixed. And then the Neumann KMS105. All right, now let's talk about something else that I have been testing. Do handheld condenser reject more than handheld dynamic compared to studio condenser? I forgot what I did. That's what I want to find out. I have been curious about this for an incredibly long time, and I have been lazy, so I never got around to testing it. I want to disclose up front, this is not a scientific test. This is not some kind of concrete answer. This is me just quenching my curiosity. I wanted to know if I was crazy in thinking that handheld condensers are better at rejecting background noise than studio condensers. Because that was my theory on why I liked them more for podcasting. They're designed to be used in incredibly loud environments, i.e., on stage surrounded by a bunch of instruments. Because they're designed to be used in that environment, they are likely designed to reject a lot more of that noise so there is less bleed making its way into the microphone. So if you're looking for a condenser for a podcast, for an imperfect room, for a untreated space, perhaps that is a good option. So let's jump to the test that I did before and hear that. I want to do a really quick comparison between a very standard and common handheld dynamic, the Shure SM58, a common and standard handheld condenser, the Neumann KMS105, and a standard studio condenser, which is the Neumann U87AI. I want to do this to see if there's any kind of difference in background noise rejection, because I've had a theory for quite some time. The reason I really enjoy handheld condensers is they're designed to be used in noisier environments, so they're going to do a better job at background noise rejection when compared to a standard studio condenser. So that's what we're testing today. I am just going in between these microphones so we can hear how much of the reverb of my voice each of these microphones picks up. In a second, I will also do a clap test to see which of the microphones does the best at rejecting that. But in the meantime, we will just be listening to my voice and listening to the room going on around it. Do any of these microphones do a better job at rejecting the reflections, or do they all sound relatively similar? Up until now, I was 3 inches away from each of the microphones. Now I've backed up, so I'm 6 inches away. You typically wouldn't have very loud cars like that outside, but also wouldn't be using a handheld dynamic or handheld condenser this far away on stage, but you would be using a studio condenser this far away. So I want to see if there's any kind of difference in the room rejection when you're using these microphones in more of a standard setup for a studio condenser as opposed to a handheld stage microphone. All right, those are the tests. Before I share my thoughts, I would love to know your thoughts. If you are just listening to the podcast, go to youtube.com/@BSP and go to BSP-389 and leave a comment. What did you hear? If you're watching on YouTube, let me know in the comments down below. I'll wait. You know what? I'm going to include a sponsor right here. JK, this podcast, I never ever want to say JK ever again. Jesus, that was terrible. But if you enjoy this podcast, there's no sponsors, there's no advertising. Give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoy it. All right, maybe I'll never do that again. I feel dirty. That wasn't a sponsorship. I didn't get paid for it, but I still feel sleazy for doing that. Oh, gosh. All right. What I heard, the U87 picked up the most background noise, which is no surprise. That microphone is notorious, at least in my opinion, for being excruciatingly unforgiving in terms of room. So if you have an untreated space, it's gonna know. If you have background noise, it is gonna know. So it is no surprise to me that that was the worst in terms of background noise rejection. The next thing that I noticed was a little bit of a shocker to me. I thought the SM58 picked up the next least amount of room tone, which is a handheld dynamic, which means the KMS-105 picked up the least amount of room? That doesn't make any sense, because condensers are supposed to be worse at background noise rejection. Handheld dynamics are always better. But that was not the case here. Very, very interesting. Now, I cannot make any concrete statements about whether or not handheld condensers do better at background noise rejection than dynamics. But what I can say is, to my ears, it seems like the KMS-105 does a better job at rejecting background noise than the SM58. In order to make any kind of concrete statements, I would need to expand the sample size a lot. A dozen plus microphones in each category so that you can start to identify trends, because this could be a one-off in this case where the condenser does better. But maybe not. Maybe handheld condensers have some magic in them that make them better at rejecting background noise. I don't know. But at least this solidifies one thing for me. I am not crazy for loving the KMS-105, because not only does it sound awesome, love how that thing sounds, but it does a pretty darn good job at background noise rejection. And isn't that just fancy schmancy? I also understand I should have included a small diaphragm condenser, a shotgun microphone, a studio dynamic like the 7B, something like that. But this was just a quick down and dirty test to quench my curiosity. All right, that is what I have been testing. That is really all I have prepared, because I gotta tell you, maybe I am just a Luddite now, but there is nothing in the news that interests me. Nothing is happening. There aren't any new product releases that make me excited. I used to be excited about a new YubiKey release. I would talk about, hey, there's a new YubiKey. How cool is this? There's a new phone. How cool is this? Maybe I'm just jaded, but nothing seems interesting. Hey, there's some more AI announcements from Google. There's about 15,000 of them. Is it me? Is tech boring, or am I just a Luddite? Am I just disconnected from technology? Or has there been a shift in technology news where it's just not fun anymore? I'm sure it's just me being a Luddite. I'm sure there are people who love what's going on. Okay, let's jump to what you had to say. First comment comes from Greg LG. He says, Bandrew, do you do any vocal exercises before you start your podcast? Greg, I do not. I do not do any vocal exercises, but I frequently restart my podcast a couple of times. So the first run through, the first 10 minutes that I record are kind of like a warm-up. I talked to people on the phone earlier in the day. I guess that's kind of a warm-up. I've also found myself when I listen to music and I'm on my walk, I'm just humming the entire time. And if I want to warm up my voice, I'll buzz my lips while I do it. Because that actually helps warm up your voice a little bit. Or maybe my choir teacher in high school just liked making us look like idiots. Very plausible. So no, I do not do any vocal exercises. I should, probably. And I should probably also do some kind of enunciation practices, some speech therapy or something, because I suck at speaking. And I watched the latest Sound Speeds podcast, announcement there soon, but I watched the latest episode and he was talking about people who over enunciate, and I left you're talking about me. You are talking about me. Stop talking about me. I do not over enunciate everything. This is a natural way of speaking, like Ross Geller in the television show Friends. Okay, let's move on. Hang on, because we never know where we're going in this podcast. Next comment comes from Just Heathers. She says, happy 9th Podcastage anniversary. Heather, thank you very much for the comment. I had actually forgotten that it was the 9th anniversary of Podcastage. I have officially sacrificed nearly a decade of my life, a decade of my free time to make microphone reviews. And isn't that a little sad? I have had fun making it. And isn't the fun the friends we made along the way? And unironically, I have made amazing friends along the way. I have met some amazing people, like Heather, like Sound Speeds, like Greg, like everybody who watches and listens to this show. Everybody on the Geeks Rising podcast network, everybody in the Discord, everybody who comments regularly. It is an absolute pleasure to know the majority of you. I'm not going to say all of you, but the majority of you, it's a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. Some of you, not so much. But yes, 9 years sacrificed of my free time to make microphone reviews. No social life. No girlfriend, no wife. Huh. Really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Hey, at least I got a steal on this SM5B. So I got that going for me, which is nice. Gungala galunga. On your bed, you shall have eternal consciousness. So I got that going for me, which is nice. Next comment comes from Simon Says VR. He says, I'm all with you on the AI train of thought. I know AI can do good in this world and help us speed up some tedious tasks, but I hate people using it as their creative create calculator. I'm so sick of AI buzz and not looking forward to it destroying creative professions. Hope will be divided into two groups of people, the ones who prompt their way to success and the old school creatives going outdoors to take pictures or videos, making things from scratch, paint stuff by hand, etc. I'm always baffled by someone being proud of an AI-generated anything. There's nothing better than a piece of art/content that you've made using your own brain, made with your own hands, ears, and eyes. Simon, thank you very much for the comment, and thank you for sharing your thoughts here. I do think there will always be this separation between the people who rely extremely heavily on AI and those who focus on creating completely new things. And I was just having a similar conversation in the Podcastage Discord voice call last night. I don't know why I pronounced everything so weird. The emphasis was on the wrong syllable. But we were discussing the flaw of AI creativity, I suppose. AI creates stuff based on the inputs. It is nothing more than an aggregate of the inputs. It may put stuff together in a unique way, but the thing that's missing is that creative spark, that jump from one idea to a new idea. The example that Pags gave is if you gave AI all of the music created up until 1980, it would not create dubstep. It was human creativity that made dubstep, and I understand that's an argument that's an argument against human creativity. But it explains the point or makes the point that AI is just an aggregator of existing information, of its inputs. And there will always be that lack of human creativity, that creative spark. Or at least as far as I understand it. And once that creative spark is met by AI, then that's when I think it becomes interesting, because right now it is just a tool to assist in certain tasks, and I do not think it can replace humans. It is obvious when there is AI-generated content, and the overwhelming majority of it is garbage. I do use AI, though. And to discuss that, let's go to the next comment from Bark of Obscure Mics. He says, I refuse to dabble in even the most basic AI. No thanks. Bark, thank you very much for the comment. I understand that position and that stance completely. Most of the fun out of making something is the actual creation of it. If the creation of something is replaced by a machine, by an algorithm, by the aggregation of a bunch of inputs, that removes a lot of the fun. The most fun thing that I do every single week in my videos is make the music tests. If I just offloaded that workload to an AI thing and just used the output from that, would remove all the fun. Is it stressful trying to get one of those songs done every single week? I shouldn't call them songs. One of those brief ideas done every single week? Yes, because I try to make it so I enjoy it. And it can be difficult. Sometimes I just have to say, that's good enough. That's good enough. But that's the fun part. Trying to be creative enough to come up with something that is interesting to you. Something that is engaging or rewarding for you to make. And if you just offload that to AI, where's the fun in that? But as I mentioned, I do use AI almost every single week. What I use it for is artwork. I use it for my thumbnails. I will not say create a thumbnail for me. I will sit there and think, what would a good thumbnail be which represents the overarching theme of this week's episode? Like last week, I thought, okay, humans are being replaced by AI. How can I convey that with a thumbnail? Half of my face will be a robot. And what is the best background for that? A dystopian futurescape where there is just a bunch of billboards that say content. So I came up with prompts to get the background that I wanted. I came up with prompts to get the robot head that I wanted. And then I had to go into Photoshop and glue all of that together. I took a photo of myself, and you got to figure out, oh crap, how do I do a gradient on a face? How do you make it transparent? And then I learned, you got to use the feather tool when you're cropping it. And then that allows you to get that effect. So I'm still being creative in my use of AI. It means that I don't have to give Adobe hundreds of dollars every single year to pay for stock photos. So it's a simple way for me to do that. And instead, I pay $11 a month for Midjourney, I think it is. And it really is a useful tool. If I lived somewhere interesting near a beach, I would just go record at the beach, because that's my favorite background that I use for my podcast when I have the green screen. Alas, I am not a millionaire, so I do not live near the beach. Ergo, I cannot just go down and record by the beach. I have to pretend. Pretend? I don't think anybody's going to get that reference, but whenever somebody says pretend, I just think of Adam Sandler saying that. Pretend? Okay. Let's go to the last comment, which comes from Tater6020. They say, I consider YouTube removing the dislike button stats from viewers being an abuse of their powers as well. Still pissed about that, lol. Tater, thank you very much for the comment. I understand your position completely as well. Full disclosure, the removal of the dislike stats have had zero impact on my viewing behavior on YouTube. I may be in the minority, but it has had zero impact. Do I like the move? No, I think it was a stupid move. But has it impacted me? No. It was such a stupid idea to do that I never thought they would actually go through with it. And it did make me a bit sad. There's only one real reason for that. If you went to the White House YouTube channel and looked at the ratio on any video, it would have 100 likes and 5,000 dislikes. It always put a smile on my face seeing that, because it wasn't a middle finger to anybody. It was just a little neener, you stink kind of thing. It's very childish getting joy out of that, but I loved seeing that. Just, you think you're doing well? You think people like you? Nope. Nope, they don't. But that was taken away from us, and that source of joy for me was stolen from it slipped through my fingers. And I've been searching for that joy ever since, something to replace that hole in my heart that was taken away by YouTube. But has it actually altered my viewing behavior? No. I will still watch the same videos that I watched before. I do understand the argument that a lot of people made, though. When you're looking up educational videos, when you're looking up tutorials, when you're looking up reviews, that dislike count, that ratio from like to dislike, can be incredibly important. Do I have a fly on my face? It can be incredibly important in determining the quality of the video really quickly. So I understand that argument, but as far as actually impacting me, it hasn't. If it has impacted you, I am sorry. I do still believe it was a stupid, idiotic move on their part. But clearly they did some tests and determined it's more beneficial for us if we hide that statistic. Now we don't get the joy of seeing how much people dislike the White House and what videos they're publishing. And we'll move on. Let's jump to, thank you very much, Tater. I appreciate your thoughts and opinions. I do want to add one more thing. There was some pushback from people thinking that I was saying YouTube has never done anything wrong. That's not what I was trying to convey. I was trying to convey the fact that very little that YouTube has done has had any serious negative impact on me or the circles that I run in. It is undeniable that YouTube has made very questionable decisions over the years that has led to a lot of people losing income, a lot of people losing their platform, a lot of people having a worse experience on the platform. There are a lot of changes they have made. On that note, Adam from Epos Vox posted a very interesting video this last week about changes to YouTube and why YouTube is no longer a place for creators like him. And there has been a significant shift over the last couple of years based on YouTube's attempt to chase TikTok. They are focusing so heavily on short-form content. And for educational channels like Epos Vox, like myself, like many other educational channels, we don't really fit into that because we don't do short-form content. And because of that, we see a decrease in performance on our channels. We don't get recommended as much. And I've always known this day would come because what is one consistent on YouTube? things always change. Things will always change. There are these eras of YouTube. They change one thing on the platform, one thing in their search algorithm, one thing in their recommendation algorithm, and an entire section of YouTube dies or suffers. Long-form gaming, animation, edgy content, political content, all of these types of videos were thriving at one point, and then YouTube made a change. They all kind of dried up because of that change. So I have known this is going to happen. At some point, review videos of microphones aren't going to be popular. I still like making them. I know the video will still be valuable to somebody. So it is what it is. Does it suck? Maybe. Got 9 years out of it, and I'm not planning on stopping, so I'll get a decade out of it. That's a great way to spend a decade. Making videos that help people, that's pretty good. That's a reference to an edgy content creator. I know people hate that term. Me too. That's a reference to iDubbbz, somebody who was edgy, and their channel kind of fell off because the changes on YouTube. Interesting. All right. Enough of the YouTube rants. Let's jump to value for value because this is a value for value podcast. This is a form of running a show that I stole from the No Agenda guys, Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak. I put out the shows free of charge. I do not have advertisements. I do not have mid-rolls. I do not put it behind a paywall. I just try to add as much value as I can, and if you get any value out of this show, just send it back in whatever way you can. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, I didn't feel dirty enough. Hey, if you like this show, go ahead and subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and do that, because there are no ads. I could be making you watch ads right now, yet I am not. Because of the generosity of these people. First up, we have Greg LG, $7 Canadian. He says, Happy Mother's Day. Greg, thank you very much for the $7 Canadian, and thank you very much for wishing me a happy Mother's Day. As everybody who watches and listens to this knows, that's not a proper sentence. I am a wonderful mother. So thank you very much, Greg. And to all the mothers out there, happy belated Mother's Day. I should have mentioned that last week. I apologize for being a terrible person and a bad son for not mentioning it on the show. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. You in particular, right there. Yes, you. You are the best mother out there. I appreciate you, and Greg appreciates you. Thought you should know that. Next, we have €25 from TechMed, Raina Richter. He says, Danke. Raina, thank you so much for the €25. As I mention every single week, your support baffles me. It is deeply appreciated. It keeps the show running, keeps the bills paid, keeps the show ad-free. So for everybody who enjoys this show ad-free, it is because of the generosity and the support of people like Raina. Next, we have $20 from MEI Studio NY. Pags, he says, Thank you. Your continued support and kind words are greatly appreciated. If there's anything I can ever help out with, just let me know. Pags, thank you very much for the $20. That is incredibly generous, but more importantly, thank you for offering to help in any way that you can. If there's any way that you can help, just let you know. Because it just so happens I need somebody to move my studio for me. So you offered. This is on you now. You have to pack it up, move it. Not really. I did that once. I was at a work meeting, and a guy was retiring, and he said, "Oh yeah, I got this truck, and just let me know if you need anything." And I said, "Actually, you have a truck. I need you to help me move," because that's the worst thing you could ask somebody to do. Okay, that's an exaggeration. There are a lot worse things you can ask somebody to do. But that's just one of the biggest inconveniences, and nobody ever wants to. Nobody's ever like, yes, somebody asked me to move. Excellent. Moving is terrible. And they didn't find it funny. So I thought I'd use the joke on you. Pags, thank you very much. And if anybody is interested in recording and great history about recording gear, go check out MEI Studio, New York. All right, that is it for the super thanks. I did not pull any Ask Bandrew. I did get an email there, but it wasn't for Ask Bandrew. I got a question from somebody and I said, hey, send me a sample. And I listened to it. Why am I sharing this with you? This doesn't matter. That is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for coming by. I really do appreciate you. I know you could do anything with your time. You could watch a movie, read a book, hang out with family, go out to a restaurant, catch a movie in a theater or something. That sounds sweet. And the fact that you choose to spend any amount of your time with me really is an honor. So thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next Sunday, I will be back. I will be talking at you, with you, about you. How did you like this more loosey-goosey episode? How did the SM5B sound? How did the... I'm hearing some crackling. How did the MVX2u hold up? Let me know in the comments on YouTube. Editing Bandrew here. It is now the future. I have edited the entire show, and I am fully aware of the digital interference, the digital character of the entire recording. Once that crackling started, when I started noticing that crackling, what I should have done was stop, restart the interface, and start recording again. I did not, and therefore the entire recording, after the crackling started, has that character. Good to know that is an issue. I don't know what causes it. I restarted the interface and now the crackling is no longer there, so I have a couple of weeks. I'm going to take my time with this thing, figure out what's going on, and report back. Hopefully it's not another bug that need be fixed. So there you go. Just wanted to add that in. I'm fully aware. Sounds bad. Sorry about that, but I'm not going to re-record the entire thing. I'm not doing it. It's too late. It's already 5 p.m. 5:05, and I need to go eat dinner because I'm already an hour later than I normally eat because I'm a 97-year-old man. Yes, I eat dinner at 4 p.m. Get off my back. Let's pass Bandrew, take this show out. Bye. And I will talk to you next week. I love you. Bye-bye. Whoa. Whoa. Boop.
This has been a Geeks Rising production. Your executive producer is Bandrew Scott. For more information, head over to www.geeksrising.com.